Hello, welcome to the channel, my friend.
Hello.
It is July 23rd, and today's entry is receive honors and slights exactly the same way.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay. I do not receive them exactly the same way right now. Honors, it's funny because I receive honors, like, internally, it feels really excited, like I'm going to Disneyland or something, but then I always downplay it externally. So, like, if someone's, like, giving me kudos or something, I might inside be like, oh my gosh, thank you, and then, like, outside I'm like, oh yeah, no worries.
No worries.
So I make it seem like I'm super humble about this whole thing, right? But internally, I'm like my own cheerleading squad. And then slights, I mean, at their best, feel like a disappointment. Like, oh, like, that it sucks that this happened. And at their worst, will like send me into a spiral of everything I've ever done that was...
doubt and
Yeah.
fear and all of those good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that you're like know about it. You know? Like that's good to acknowledge, right? Like hey, I actually know that what happens. Now, yes, of course, it's difficult to change it while it's happening. Maybe like that's a different conversation, but I feel like that's super valuable to know what those processes look like already. You know, because that means you already went through them a bunch of times, and now you're like recognize the cycles or something. You know?
Yeah. Mostly because I think the way I process the slights is really problematic because it can get so obsessive and it's like, it's not easy to like let my own mistakes roll off my back.
Yeah. So ultimately you're saying like you when somebody praises you, you kind of wave your hand at it, like don't worry about it, and when somebody says something negative,
my entire worth as a human being has been thrown into question.
It's totally, existence is now questioned. Yes.
I don't deserve to live.
Yes. Why does it feel like that? Like, why is it so dramatically felt like that? Is it because it's like so sensitive, and so because it's always like kind of pushing the envelope of uncomfortability, like the new push further, it feels so uncomfortable. It has to, because we've never been there, right?
Yeah, there's like other stuff as to like probably why that's the case in terms of like growing up in an environment where I was afraid a lot and I got in a lot of trouble, and versus, you know, like the story that we listened to in some audiobook about the Spanx CEO and how her father every night at dinner when she was growing up engaged the whole family with the question, what did you fail at today? And so like I think growing up in that way made it more intolerable than like, of course there's going to be this natural intolerance.
What did you succeed at today? And if it's nothing, then you failed.
Oh, you mean like how I'm programmed? Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Versus like you actually learned so much, and that was actually the goal of that, because the failures are the learning points or something, right? Yeah. So it's like where did we fail today? Yeah. That's a cool way to look at it, man. It feels like then it stops feeling like what you were describing, that it feels so punishment of self is so big, you know, when we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius says, receive without pride, let go without attachment. That's interesting. I could read this in two ways. I could say receive without pride. That makes me think like, well, what would I be proud of? I would be proud of something that would bring me honor, like a good thing. Like I did a good thing, and now he's saying receive without pride, and then let that go without attachment. So like, don't hold on to the good thing. But then I could also read what he's saying, like receive without pride, like I did the honorable thing, and now let me receive that without feeling this sense of ego boost. And let go of the other stuff, like let go of the slights without attaching to them, which is an interesting way of thinking about it, because that is what it's like. It's like this obsessive loop on the I fucked up train.
And it's interesting because why is he saying the pride stuff? Because like let go of the pride stuff without being, like too celebratory or something. Just like, oh yeah, this thing happened, which is positive. That's wonderful, great. Let's keep going, right? Like, don't make a big deal out of it, because the more big deal out of that we make, the more those lows will feel the opposite of that, right? So the more we actually can start controlling it by those positives, and not saying like don't acknowledge them, no, but just like, people say like, no, it's interesting because then there's this whole idea of celebration. Like, what's the difference between celebration and
pride?
Like
what he's talking about.
Yeah.
The thing that's coming to mind right now is like
Go
pride is a very like
proud of it, yeah.
like pride is a very individual thing. Like, this was my achievement and my accomplishment, and I get to now feel proud of that. And a celebration sounds like something that like other people get to participate in, and other people also prepare, like helped make that celebratory moment happen.
Yes.
Because like let me just think, like I hit a home run in softball. It would be easy to just be like, I'm the best, I rock. But like, am I thanking my coach who helped me get my swing in order? Am I thanking my dad who like gets off work early every Wednesday to drive me to practice? Am I thinking of my teammates? Am I thinking of the other team? So it's like, maybe the celebration is more about like bringing other people into the story of the great, awesome thing that just happened.
Yeah, because we're never alone in the success that we get to experience or something,
Yeah.
We're not alone responsible for it. And it's not only like it's more than us as just far as like more people, but it's also like the lack of it, or the spirituality of the thing that it showed up, or whatever we want to call it, right? Like the spirits that brought those things to your existence, your life, right? So it's like all of those things are somehow connected to why that thing actually appeared. So thanking ultimately is like the humble way of receiving it,
So it's more of a position of gratitude.
Yeah, than pride. Yeah. Gratitude instead of pride. Yeah.
Okay. You got anything else on your mind before we move to Ryan? Okay. Let's do Ryan. He says, in the midst of the breakdown of the Roman Republic, during the civil war between Pompey and Caesar, Pompey made the decision to give control of the military fleet to Cato. It was a massive honor and a hugely powerful position. But then, a few days later, responding to the protests of his jealous inner circle, Pompey reversed his decision and took the command away. It could have been seen as an enormous public humiliation to be given a promotion and then have it taken away. The record shows that Cato's reaction was basically nothing. He responded to the honor and the dishonor the same way, with indifference and acceptance. He certainly didn't let it affect his support for the cause. In fact, after the snub, he worked to rally the soldiers before battle with inspirational speeches, the very men who should have been under his command. That's what Marcus is saying. Do not take the slights of the day personally, or the exciting rewards and recognitions either, especially when duty has assigned you an important cause. Trivial details like the rise and fall of your position say nothing about you as a person. Only your behavior, as Cato's did, will. Are you working on a thought over there?
No, I don't think so.
The thing that sticks out here to me is this idea of he responded to the honor and the dishonor the same way, with indifference and acceptance. And I like putting it in a story like this because I can imagine that, like, in the privacy of his own home, it may not have felt so indifferent. It may not have felt like, oh, I can just easily accept this. But there's some pause between, like, how I take it privately and then now, like, how do I step back into the game, let's say, with other people, and, like, how do I show up as? And, like, doing the work to, like, move myself from wherever I start, the disappointment or the excitement or whatever it is, and start moving it more towards, like, okay, well, how would I behave if I were indifferent and accepting of this?
Yeah. It was just something about, like, promotions, and, like, I've seen people get promoted and then they get, like, they're very happy about it, they're very excited, right? And then ultimately they're realizing, like, that's actually just, like, a lot more work, right? And then but then I also saw people who would get demoted from a big positions, like C-suite, or, you know, like being a VP of something, and they get demoted to, like, a manager or some, just essentially going down, right? Because something is not working out there, whatever that thing is. And every time I see those people, like, I had this tendency of kind of feeling sorry for them that it didn't work out. And then I was also kind of like maybe looking at them like, well, these people are gonna have to quit now, right? They're gonna leave. They're gonna have to go in someplace else and go try to work themselves up over there, right? And that does happen, but some people do stay in those roles and they're okay with it. And it's like, and I've looked at them mostly from, like, perspective of, like, oh, these guys are kind of maybe weak, like a weakness. I'm looking at it like, oh, like they couldn't figure it out here. Now they got demoted. They couldn't go someplace else to go figure it out. And so they're just kind of like put their head down and just said, like, I can't do it, right? Like, it's kind of sad. It reminds me of a sad thing, but based on this, I can now have a different perspective a little bit, like, oh no, these people might be just, like, taking it like, yeah, life throws you lemons, you make lemonade, sometimes it's hundreds of millions of dollars, then I deal with that. Now, oops, it's all gone, sounds good, I deal with that. Like, it's like some people might be a lot more stoic than we think they are, right? And
Sure.
So I'm not giving them credit. I'm thinking like they're just poor labs or something, but there might be there might be totally in this kind of a zone of like, yeah, I got promoted, I got a chance to do it. It was very difficult. Now I'm coming back. All I'm doing is getting ready for the next thing, and I'm working on my weaknesses that I'm getting. Like, it's totally different mindset than, oh, poor me, I got demoted, you know?
And not that you would ever be able to verify it, but it would be interesting to know, like, were you misreading them and they were being more stoic and you were applying the self-pity label, or were they like, that's what I'm wondering, like, the curiosity, not that we would ever be able to verify it,
Right.
but like, what were they really going through? Was it like they were more stoic than you thought they were, or that they were actually taking it personally and feeling sorry for themselves and you were reading that in them, and then, you know, thinking that we can't answer the question. That's why I said it was unverifiable, but it's just like interesting to think about.
Interesting to think about from the standpoint of like, we can't know that, but how I want to be, or what kind of how do I want to react in those situations, right? And if I say that to myself ahead of time, like, hey, when my successes come, I receive them like, thank you so much. I'm very humble to accept, you know. And when my pitfalls come, I'll be like, hey, thank you so much. I'm sorry. I made a mistake, right? Like, I don't have to go so off base or something. Like, that's how it feels like that's exactly with that harmony, or this staying in the center more, right? Like, the second I start celebrating, then the fall is gonna come, like the pendulum of that's gonna swing the other way when I mess up, you know, or if I lose that job or whatever that thing is, you know.
And by celebrating, you're just meaning like in the prideful way.
Prideful way, yeah. Celebrating is fun, in a humble way, sharing that celebration, yeah, that's fine, that's totally fine. That's actually what we should be doing more often.
Yeah, because then I think we're inviting more of it into our lives.
For sure.
Okie dokie. That's it from us today. See you here tomorrow. Say something in the comments. Bye.